All right, here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to our weekly immigration live update. I am Kay Wilson. Welcome. I see a few people trickling in. I'm Kay Wilson, regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and I am the lead consultant and founder of Northern Connections Canada Immigration. Thank you guys for joining. I see people joining on Instagram, on Facebook, and LinkedIn. And as you come in, say hi. And as per usual, let me know where you're joining me from. All right. So today I'm going to talk about some of the recent news items. Of course, there's always something happening in the realm of Canadian immigration. So I'm going to touch on some of the Pnp draws to be more specific. We've been having a few draws. Hi, Mrs. Noel. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Glad to have you. So I'm going to touch on Pnp draws. I'm going to touch on, hi, Lakeisha. Pnp draws, and of course, Ryan Phillips from Jamaica. Thanks for joining. The job market. So there was a recent release of a job market update from Statistics Canada, and so they're basically telling us what's happening in the world of Canadian labor market, what's going on a provincial level, and also on even in greater detail on a city level, right? And so you have an idea. This will help you in terms of where you're looking to go. So if you're looking at permanent residency, where should you be looking at? Where are the jobs? So I'll give you some tips where that's concerned. And even if you're not looking at permanent residency, if you're looking at outright finding a job in Canada, that's your goal, you don't want to go through PR programs, then this will also give you some insight on what's happening inside, right? On the inside. So it's we're going in the fall officially. And so it's starting to get very, very cold here. My 2-year-old is just learning to talk, says it's chilly. So it's starting, and it's sweater season. So you'll be seeing me wearing my sweater. It's starting to get a little cold now. So we're going in the winter. I know in Alberta. So fun fact, Alberta usually is one of the first provinces to start seeing winter. So I believe it was already snowing in Alberta. We haven't had any snow here in Saskatchewan just yet, but typically every year the snow starts in Alberta. Once you see it starting to snow in Alberta, then you know that the winter is just about here. It's a little bit later this year because normally, like for the snowfall in Alberta, it would normally starting about September. And so we're just having that. So that's actually a good sign where that's concerned. So that's a little bit about the weather and what's happening here. So I am going to start with the Pnp draws. All right. So you guys will see me going back and forth because I have multiple screens here because I have you guys joining on different platforms. All right. So this past week, Nova Scotia, so the province of Nova Scotia had a draw. So they drew 330 express entry candidates, right? So in this, it was actually two draws. So they selected candidates from two draws. So one stream was directly from express entry. And in this draw, so remember I said like with the Pnp programs, they may have a general draw or they may have a draw where they're targeting certain occupations, right? So in this draw, the province of Nova Scotia targeted those candidates with work experience in NOC 7271. So NOC 7271 is actually a skilled trades occupation. I believe it's carpenters, right? So that was a primary occupation. And then what you can do with your profile, if your work experience is in different occupations, so multiple occupations, you may have work experience in one NOC code versus another. The one that you select as your primary NOC has to be a strategic move, right? So because, and I say this because they're usually are sometimes draws where the provinces may select from one knock code versus another one. And if you look at the draws and you look at the trends, you look at what skill set is needed in different provinces and what they're drawing, that should give you an idea of what knock code should I really use as my primary knock. Because you can have a primary knock and then you can have work experience in other knock codes as well, and that can also be on your profile. But when they are reviewing the express entry system, they're looking mainly at your primary knock. So that's one tip there. I didn't even come prepared to say this, but I feel like that's important to mention. If you are in express entry or looking to get into express entry, and if you're not sure about your knock, the knock is a big deal where the immigration programs are concerned, and your overall success is also hinging on the knock that you select and ensuring that that is correct. So if you guys need help with that, definitely reach out to us. That's something that we specialize in. All right, so they selected 330 candidates through express entry. This happened, the draw happened on October 7th, so just recently, a couple of days ago. And these candidates have until November 6th to apply for permanent residence. In this draw, they only had to meet CLB 5, right? So that's pretty low, CLB 5. And of course, they would have to provide letters of references, so employment reference letters to confirm the work experience that they have and are claiming. The other set that the Nova Scotia government drew was also a job offer stream. So these candidates would have been required to have a job offer from a Nova Scotia employer, right? And full-time job offer. And the language level for this was also CLB 5. So again, pretty low. So that was for Nova Scotia. Then Manitoba. Manitoba also had a draw. It's a draw from their expression of interest system. So they're a little different, right? Nova Scotia, the draw, well, one of the draws was primarily from the express entry system, while Manitoba, they actually have their own expression of interest system. So that's where you would apply. And they selected in this draw from skilled workers in Manitoba, as well as skilled workers overseas. And then also international education stream. So for those who may have studied in Manitoba. As a reminder, and I mentioned it, before on previous slides, that with Manitoba, you must have a connection in Manitoba in order to apply there. And that connection can be a relative, a friend, though the connection with a friend, it's really not that strong unless your points are substantially high. And that connection can also come from them selecting you in their strategic recruitment drives, or by working or studying in Manitoba. All right, and then the next one is British Columbia. So BC actually just had a draw that happened yesterday. And so BC tends to have a lot of Pnp draws, and they selected, so in two draws, they selected 308 candidates, and then the second one is 101. So that's a lot right there. So there's been, even though there hasn't been any movement by way of the federal skilled worker program since the start of the year, the provincial programs have been very, very active, as you guys might be able to see. So very active. And so at this time, if you are in express entry, great, because that opens you up for a provincial nomination. And if you, even outside of express entry, and you're looking at PNP, or if you're looking at permanent residence, rather, the PNPs are definitely a great place to start, because that's where all the action is happening right now, right? So that's something to bear in mind. All right, and then I'm just going to look quickly at the labor market report. So this is a report that was recently published by Statistics Canada. So that's the government agency who collects market data on the employment scene. And it's not just for labor. Statistics Canada is a government agency. They They do all of the data tracking across Canada, different subjects, different industries, different, like anything that can be tracked, they will be tracking that, so you can get a lot of data from them. All right, so employment, and this is for September, right? So this is the employment market update for September of 2021. So that's last month. And so for the first time since the pandemic started, the employment levels in Canada have gone back to their pre-pandemic stage. So that's actually pretty good. So that means that people who were maybe out of a job for whatever reason have all gone back in the labor force. And it might not be the same set of people, but the levels that we had in terms of the employment numbers and the unemployment rate have gone back to what it was for the very first time. So they're comparing it to February 2020 before the pandemic got, the way it is right now. So that's actually good. So the employment rate in Canada, sorry. So the employment rate was lower than February 2020, essentially. So the labor force participation rate was 65%. So that's high for Canada. It's not very high, of course, and that is why Canada needs workers, right? They need immigration is such an important tool in our economic development. So the labor force participation in September was 65.5%, right? So that's that. Just imagine Canada has about 35 to 38 million people, and of that, 65.5% of the people are actually participating in the labor force, meaning that's the percentage of people that are working, right? So there are others who may be unemployed, or whether by choice or otherwise, 65% are working, right? So they said that the service sector industries, they saw an increase of 142,000 in terms of the numbers of people, or the number of jobs that's been created and people getting back into the workforce. So that increase was as a result of public administration, right? Information, culture, recreation, professional, scientific, and technical services. So these are the areas in which the job scene has seen an upturn, right? And the one area where employment fell, which is expected, was in accommodation and food services. And this was the first time that it had actually fallen in the 5 months prior when they tracked this data. And this is expected because, of course, we've been in and out of lockdowns. The accommodation and food services sector, retail, a lot of these places were the hardest hit because they have had to close completely, right? So that is definitely expected. Accommodation, a lot less people are traveling, so there might not be as much in terms of what's happening on the scenes for hotels and stuff like that. So that is expected. And then the manufacturing sector also saw an increase. That's no surprise. They had an increase of over 22,000, and that's because the manufacturing sector in Canada is huge. It's huge, and we depend on the manufacturing sector for food and all of that. So of course it's expected that the supply in terms of the labor force will increase in that sector. Then the unemployment rate in Canada started a downward trend, which is good. So it was below 77% for the first in a while. So at September, the unemployment rate was 6.9%, right? And again, this has been the lowest since the onset of COVID-19. And the unemployment rate was driven down by the increase in the number of Canadians that are participating in the labor market, right? So again, the labor scene here, you'll go around and you'll see a lot of help wanted sign, some more so in more in some provinces than in others. And that's because, especially for service-based businesses, retail and restaurants and stuff like that, they are having a very hard time finding workers right now. And that's why you guys would have seen us even posting a lot of cooks and chefs and stuff like that, food service supervisors, because we have employers who are coming to us to say, hey, I need workers and I need them right now. And that's because of the shortage in that area right now in Canada, because people were getting COVID payments, right? They were getting COVID payments from the government. So if you're getting, a benefit from the government that you don't have to repay, and it might be the same or even more than what you were working, then, some people have decided that it's probably better to collect that than go back to work. So for different reasons, really, right? And so that's been a widespread issue across multiple provinces, where employers are even offering signing bonuses because they are short on staff. And like I said, it's understandable, because some of these people were, they were working 1 minute, then the next minute they were out of a job because of lockdowns, and then working again. So it's just that uncertainty. Some people have even left the industry to do other things. So different reasons. So employment increased in 6 provinces. So Ontario, Quebec, Alberta, Manitoba, New Brunswick, and Saskatchewan. Again, I'm not surprised. BC, so British Columbia, was one of the lone provinces where employment was, the employment rate was very notably back to its pre-pandemic levels, right? So Ontario, employment in Ontario rose for the fourth consecutive month. So this was in September as a result of full-time employment. A big part of this was what happened in the Toronto metropolitan area, and the increases in employment. The unemployment rate in Ontario right now is 7.3%. And then in Quebec, so Quebec is Canada's French province, the unemployment rate was one of the lowest in Canada at 4%, so 4.1%. And they also saw gains in manufacturing, professional, scientific, and technical services. So you kind of have an idea of where your skills that might be needed, right, with some of this data. Alberta is the next one. So Alberta had an unemployment rate of 8.1%. And it's still above what it was pre-pandemic. So pre-pandemic, Alberta's unemployment rate was high. So it was at 7.5%, and now it's at 8.1%. So employment very slightly increased in Alberta. And it was mostly because of the wholesale and retail sector in Alberta. But as some of you may know, Alberta is highly dependent on oil and gas. And when oil and gas is down, the Alberta economy is also down. It will suffer, right? So it's very resource heavy in terms of their industry. And so they are impacted a lot by the resource prices for oil and gas. In September as well, Manitoba had an unemployment rate of 5.6%. So that's not bad. And there was a report of more women who were participating in the labor force, because a lot of Canadians may decide to work from home or not to work at all. Some of them may be full-time parents. So one person may work while one person stays at home and looks after the children. So that's very common in some Canadian households. So a lot more women were participating in the labor force in this report, and especially Manitoba was one of the provinces where that was highlighted. You'll find, though, for some provinces, and we'll get to it, like the Atlantic provinces, where the unemployment rate is much higher. And it almost doesn't make sense because these are the provinces where they have the Atlantic pilot program where they look, and it's a job offer program, right? But I'll touch on that just a little bit. For Saskatchewan, the unemployment rate was 6.3%. So Saskatchewan tends to generally would have a low unemployment rate. So it was at 6.3. It's still not below the pre-pandemic levels though. It was a little bit lower than that pre-pandemic. And then New Brunswick have an unemployment rate of 9.3%. So New Brunswick was 9.3. Newfoundland was 13%, 13.1. Nova Scotia 8%, and PEI 11. So these are all the Atlantic region, right, in terms of provinces. And what you may find is the Atlantic provinces, they have the Atlantic Immigration Pilot and other programs where you need a job offer to work in that province. And they are these pilots. So the Atlantic Pilot was now deemed a permanent program just because it did so well, right? It was helping a lot of the employers there find workers. So you may wonder, why is the unemployment rate so high in the Atlantic region, right? And there are reasons for that. So one of the reasons being the workforce. The labor force in the Atlantic region is aging, right? The population is aging and the baby boomers are retiring. And as a result, that kind of shrinks the availability of workers in that region. And that's why you'll see the pilot programs that are trying to basically match up employers with workers from overseas, they do so well. So it's not that, okay, the unemployment rate is high, why would I move to these provinces? I wouldn't be able to find job. There is a reason for the rates being so high, and that's one, right? The bulk of people there are aging, so they may not be able to work, right? Another factor is younger workers. So the older workers are aging. Younger workers, they have found, are moving away from the region. So that they might be moving to other provinces, moving for school, moving for whatever reason. The younger workers tend to be relocating. And the hardest hit of the Atlantic provinces is Newfoundland, right? So they are definitely short on labor there, and especially with the younger people moving away from the province. Some of them might, like I said, might be moving for school or for different reasons, for jobs. They may want to go to a bigger city. There are different reasons. So that really explains why the unemployment rate there is so high. And the jobs there, some of the jobs that we see in the region tend to be more on the temporary side. So some of them might be seasonal, and so they might not be able to find seasonal workers as well for those jobs. And that's why you have programs like the Farm Work Program to bring in seasonal labor to fill opportunities where the Canadians may not want those jobs. And that's definitely the case for the Farm Work Program. So that really contributes to it. And then another thing too is for the Atlantic region, you'll find that a lot of the unemployment that is there and that contributes to the unemployment rate being so high is in the rural areas. So the cities, you will have the unemployment rate in the city, like in New Brunswick, I think it's Fredericton, in Halifax, places like those where you'll find the unemployment rate is much lower, but then the overall unemployment rate for the province might be higher because of unemployment in the rural towns. So they'll have a lot of rural areas, small towns, where the unemployment rate is higher because, again, aging population, young people moving away, they need workers, but some of the jobs might be temporary, seasonal, stuff like that. So that contributes to the rate. So hopefully that makes sense. And then in terms of Canadian territories, right? So some of you may know Canada has 3 territories, and the population in the territories are very small. Um, you will find though that that's where a lot of people find work. So if you're willing to go into the territories, so there is the Yukon, there is Northwest Territories, and there is Nunavut, right? So those are the 3 territories, and they tend to be, they're north, of course, so they're going to be further north, and of course they're Arctic, so they're going to be really cold. But some people really go there for jobs, just because your likelihood of getting a job there is higher, because there's not much competition, right? And the pay tends to be higher because, of course, cost of living there is going to be higher because it's far north. So basic food items are going to be like off the chains, like very high. But there's also people who work in that region get what they call the Northern Allowance, just because you're in the north, so you'll get like an additional benefit. So it'll be paid, you can claim it on your tax return. So you basically get some money for having to live in the northern part of Canada, right? So helping to develop that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to cover for the labor market review. Hopefully you guys found the information helpful, and it will help you in terms of your job search and where to look, and even in terms of looking for, provincial information, which province, when you're thinking about coming to Canada, where are you going to live? Where do you want to go? Some of you may or may not have family here. Some people may want to go where they have family, while others may just want to go and do their own thing. So it's going to be different for everybody. Let's see if I can see the comments here. Okay, so I see somebody said, I don't mind living up north. Yeah, I mean, I could have somebody come and share. Hey, Rolanda, I'm just seeing your comment. I could have somebody who have actually lived. So she lived in the Northwest Territory. She could come and share with you guys what it's like to live in that side of the world. It's definitely different. Coming to Canada is gonna be a very different experience for a lot of people, even moving provinces, right? I previously lived in Toronto for a long time. And when I moved to the western part of Canada, I felt like I was in a different country, right? At first. So it's Canada from one province to the next. It almost feels like you're in a different country. Plus, it's a huge place. Canada is big, right? So even going from where I live in Regina to Saskatoon, which is the next city, it's like 3 hours drive. And it's on a highway. Okay, so I see somebody says, I have a cousin living in New Brunswick. Yeah. New Brunswick is a great place to start. It's one of those emerging provinces. A great place. Hey, I don't want to butcher your name, Teke. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining. First time joining. Okay, I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Okay, so somebody, I'm working in the medical field and I just want to get out. I get it. Where are you joining me from? Okay, and if we could get job opportunities from outside Canada, that would help greatly. It does help, but it's not required. So don't feel like, okay, to come to Canada, to get through with the immigration programs, I need a job offer. Not required. Not required. It does help, and it depends on the type of job, because I've had clients who had job offers and we were not able to use it for the application because of either the not code that it's in or something else. So it's not always a thing that helps you. So it depends on the job offer, if it's an LMIA job offer or not, and the not code of the job. So different things. Okay, so you're from Trinidad. Okay, awesome. And you have a visitor visa. Okay, good. Yes, I do. I do visitors visa applications as well. So I do a little bit about what I do, some of the services that we offer. So we assist with permanent as well as temporary resident applications. So if you're applying for permanent residency, whether that's through express entry or any of the provincial nominee programs, we can assist with that. Typically, how we work with clients is we will prepare the entire application package on your behalf. So we give you a list of documents to provide. You'll upload your documents, we get them, and then we're able to apply on your behalf. So it's kind of like a done for you service. Everything would be handled from our end. We also do visitors visa, study permit applications, work permit. Yeah, and a lot more services as well. So we are a full service immigration consulting firm. Okay, and then somebody's asking in terms of cost. So in terms of cost, we start off with a consultation. So if you look at the link, so if you're on Instagram, I see the comment is on Instagram. If you go to the link in our bio, we can also post it in the chat. But if you go to the link in our bio, that's where you'll see the options for consultation. So you will review and then select the most appropriate one based on what it is that you want to do in Canada. So we have different types of consultation options. So I usually start off with a consultation so that I can better assist you. I can learn about you and your case, and then I can provide you with information on what to do. I can review your documents, and then from there we can start the application process. Right? So that's how we normally do it. Express entry. Express entry can take anywhere from a year and a half average. So a year and a half. And that's once your application has been accepted. So once you've received an ITA, that's what it has been for my clients. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Okay. And one final thing, guys, I wanted to make note as well. We are having a series of webinars coming up. We do this from time to time. The last time we did this was back in June. So we'll be having our webinar series coming up. So it's an immigration webinar series. It's completely free. So you can join in to learn more about whatever it is that you want to do in Canada. So each day we'll be touching on a different topic. It starts on October 25th and we continue all the way to October 29th. It's going to be about an hour each day. So join us live. And then if you are in our private group, you'll be able to watch the replays of the sessions for a limited time. So it won't be available indefinitely, but we will have the replays available just for a limited time. On the 25th, we're looking at all things permanent residence, right? So applying for permanent residence in Canada, how does that work and what are some of the requirements? On the second day, October 26th, we'll be touching on studying in Canada. That is through the program that allows you to study and work at the same time. So we'll be looking at that program in detail. Working in Canada, this is going to be a big one too, because I know a lot of people are typically interested in working, but what does that look like for you and what are the requirements? So we'll be touching on that day. On the 28th, day 4, we'll be talking about visiting Canada, especially now in a pandemic. Can you even visit? And what are some of the requirements to do that? And then on the last day, we'll top it off with a bonus session where we'll be addressing some of the questions that would have come up during the sessions, and then also some of the more frequently asked questions that we get. So that's what we'll be touching on for each week. Do try to join us. If you can, it would be great, especially based on some of the questions that I'm even seeing right now. These sessions would answer a lot of the questions that you guys have, and we'll be touching on different programs. So if you can join each day, it would definitely be beneficial for you, and it's only going to be about an hour long each day. All right. Okay, somebody's asking how long for study permit application. Study permits typically are it depends on the region, really. It depends on where you're applying from. Let me say that. It's going to be, the processing time is going to be different for for each region and the country that you're applying from. So I won't even get into specifics because I see there are people joining from different places, but the processing time is based on the country that you're applying from, even though it's online, right? So it'll be based on where you're applying from. All right, guys, I am going to hop off. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this information useful. And for those who missed some of it, if you're just joining me, if you're watching the replay, welcome. And if you're joining for this the first time, I'm very happy to have you here. And if you didn't catch all of it, go back, watch the replay. Some great information was divulged, especially about the labor markets here in Canada. You definitely want to go back and check that out. All right, guys, take care. I will catch you guys next week. Have a blessed rest of your day.